Oh, how you doing there, folks? Laban Schmull here, out on a limb in FEMA Region Number 3. Hey, look over there. It's the ICBM surveillance blimp, what do you know? So, Laban, why you out there on that limb? Well, I'm gonna do a little study on a topic I've never tackled before, so here we are. Perhaps some of you might disagree with some of the stuff I got to say, and so you might think I belong out here on this limb. Now, some of you might not think I needed to climb out here on this limb at all. But it's too late to change the picture now, so here we are. I'm going to talk about Antichrist, and that can certainly get folks up a tree for sure. Now, I don't know what anybody else says, but we can't be 100% certain who this idiot is going to be. All we can do, which of course is the best, and the most blessed of all things to do with regard to any matter under the sun, like a Voltaire is to go to the scriptures. Woo! Oh, the scriptures. Gotta love the scriptures. Can't do without them. Can't do without them. Well, as I was saying, now you might disagree with me already, but I do not think that we can know with 100% certainty who the Antichrist is. Even if Ray Kurzweil went over to the Large Hadron Collider at CERN and made a Nephilim out of Hal Lindsey and Jack Van Impe, we still couldn't be 100% certain. Remember, my friends, Daniel chapter 2, verse 22, it is he who reveals the profound and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. And remember this too, my bunkies, the only reason to even care anything at all about this sick freak is this. The closer we are to him being revealed, the closer we are to being with our Savior. Oh, yeah. All right, Laban, you out there on that limb. You going to get on with it? We got to get on with it. Who can it be now? Trending thought amongst many Bible prophecy experts today is that the Antichrist will be a Muslim, disputing that the western leg of the revived Roman Empire will be the doorway through which he enters the end of days. Now, folks, what I'm saying here in this study is not that the Antichrist will not or cannot be a Muslim. What I'm saying is that there are those who are saying they are certain that he will be a Muslim. And I'm saying that they can't be certain. I mean, he could well be. I'm just saying that some of their arguments might be out of whack. Some of them are confusing. I'm not here to contradict great Bible scholars or to insult anyone or offend anyone who really believes or is forcefully saying that he must be a Muslim. I am just saying that we cannot be 100% sure of who this man will be. Well, let's get on with it. Here is one of their arguments, which I'm calling number one. For far too long, biblical eschatology, that's the study of end times, has viewed the end times through the lens of a Western mindset. The Bible was written in the East, and so should be interpreted as such. Rebuttal number one. What is that supposed to mean? Well, you know who that is? Look at that. You might remember who that is if you ever seen that movie. That is the actor Peter Sellers as Chance the Gardener from the great film Being There. And this character, Chance the Gardener, well, he never left the house that he was born into until he was about into his 60s. And all he did up until the time he left that house was eat, sleep, and watch television. That's all he did. Now, let's just say you take the television away and you give him the Bible. Just a straight-up old King Jim. And all he did was eat, sleep, read the Bible. No outside influence. He didn't know what was going on outside. He didn't know where he was. All he knew is he was living in this house. He ate and he slept. He read the Bible. That's all he did. Now, what mindset would he be reading the scriptures with? Come on now, the guy ain't left the house for 60 years. He don't know east from west. And what about what's a north-south mindset? Then you got the Eskimos and Aborigines getting involved. Man, there's a can of worms. Come on now. East mindset, reading the scriptures with a come on, turn the page. No doubt the East has its good points. However, Elohim has placed his children all over the planet, and so does not require them to view his word with any other mindset than that of the word. And since the word is Yeshua, we are to view all scripture through the lens of a Yeshua mindset. Now they might argue, well, Yeshua was born in the East. Yes, he was. But did he think like them? No, that's why they killed him. I'm sure those Pharisees and those Sadducees certainly had an Eastern mindset, but Yeshua never would have thought like them. Come on. These these folks argue that we can understand things better with regard to the Antichrist by trying to comprehend the mindset of the enemy. Is that what Yeshua did? Sure, he was always, answering their questions with questions, hoisting them up on their own petards, so to speak. But he could never think like them. He was above their silly tricks. That's the Yeshua mindset, and that's what we are striving to attain. It is argued that if one reads the prophecies concerning the Antichrist with the Eastern mindset, then it will be clear from the descriptions given that the Antichrist is obviously a Muslim. And I'll bet that if a Muslim reads the prophecies concerning the Antichrist, he'd think that the Antichrist is obviously a Lutheran. Now, I'm not picking on the Lutherans. No, that particular denomination just happened to flow better off the tongue. So no offense to the Lutherans. But do you get the point here? If we are reading the scriptures with the mindset of Yeshua, why would it matter which part of the world you were regionally brought up in? It is not sensible to see the scriptures through any particular cultural lens. The ways of this world are of the flesh, so there can be no cultural standard with which to view the scriptures. So to say that we would better understand who the Antichrist will be by understanding Eastern ways is to say that the scriptures, in and of themselves, are not sufficient enough to give us the information we need to discern a matter. Are the scriptures alone enough, no matter what? Well, let's see what Yeshua said. Matthew 4, verse 4. But he answering said, It has been written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. There you go. If Yeshua is telling us that the word is as equally important to us to live as food, then no outside written source or commentary is needed to understand anything that is integral to our, well, understanding. And it is good that Elohim places his children all over. We are in the four corners of the world. Why? Because he made us who we are and gave us all distinct personalities. How is it that we all seem to get different pieces of his divine puzzle? Then you think about his children being all over the world, it sort of brings new meaning to what Isaiah was trying to say when he wrote this. Isaiah 28, verse 10. For it is command upon command, command upon command, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. Seems to make sense. Look, let's just read the scriptures like we're Chance the Gardener. No outside influence unless Elohim sees otherwise. Look at this here. First Peter 1, 19 and 20. A very familiar passage to many of us. Let's read. And we have the prophetic word made more certain, which you do well to heed as a light that shines in a dark place, until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts, knowing this first, that no prophecy of Scripture came to be of one's own interpretation. For prophecy never came by the desire of men, but men of Elohim spoke, being moved by the set-apart Spirit, or the Holy Spirit, Kodesh Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh is probably the best way to say it of all. And now the words of Shaul, Paul in the English. 1 Corinthians 2:16. For who has known the mind of Yahweh? Who shall instruct him? But we have the mind of Mashiach. There you go. There's your mindset. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more. Argument number 2. An in-depth study of Islamic eschatology will show quite conclusively that the Antichrist will be a Muslim. Rebuttal number 2. Who cares about Islamic eschatology? I don't want to read that trash. And you shouldn't either. No one should. Now, you might be saying unto yourself, man, old Laban, he don't think we should expand our minds. He's being pretty narrow-minded thinking like that, isn't he? Yes. Yes, I am. I am thinking narrow-mindedly. Read that. Enter by the narrow gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. That's my gate. I want the narrow gate, so I'll have the narrow mind. You want to expand your mind? Go ahead. Like Eve, the enemy, Satan, wants nothing more than to get you out of the Bible and into some other garbage, making you think like you're gaining knowledge. Do not be deceived. We do not need to know the eschatology of any other belief system in order to be a watch person for Elohim. If you're going to get into the Quran, you might as well study the eschatology of the Mayans and the Incans and the Hindus. And then when you finish that, you can call up Travolta and Tom Cruise and get the lowdown on the end times according to L. Ron Hubbard. Come on now. These folks argue that the Quran is a perversion of the Bible. Well, a false gospel is a false gospel. What about that? Or that? Or that? Or them? Or that? It's all the same. False. Well, Laban, what about you? Haven't you read anything lately outside the scriptures? Well, let me tell you, people, I'm going to be completely honest. Very little. Between February 11th of 2013 to today, let me show you the 5 books that I have read. That's one. Hind's Feet on High Places. The 3-volume set of The Christian in Complete Armor by Sir William Gurnall. A Fritzy Pop for William Gurnall. And the 2 books written by Rabbi Jonathan Kahn, The Harbinger and The Mystery of the Shemitah. That's it. For the past 2 years, outside of these 5 books, it's just been Genesis to Revelation. That's it for me. Everything else is not only a distraction, it's dull. Turn the page. All right, let's read these wonderful scriptures together, my friends, and then I'll tell you why we did. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, verses 35 through 37. Watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming in the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of a rooster, or in the morning, lest, coming suddenly, he find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. And going on, once again to the words of Shaul, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3. For when they say peace and safety, sometimes they use the word security, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. What, my friends, is the main focus of these 2 passages? Well, to me, the focus is suddenness. You hear that? Suddenness. Quick, quick, smack that. Suddenness. Folks, the tribulation and the onset of the Antichrist is going to come on so suddenly. Now, let me ask you, is there anything sudden anymore about these idiot Muslims and the stunts they pull? How long have we been dealing with these parasites now, huh? Especially the Jewish people. They've been dealing decades. Longer. And if you really want to get nitty-gritty about it, we can go all the way back to the night Sarah told Abby to sleep with the maid. So they kind of brought a bit of that on themselves. But that's beside the point. Look at them clowns. There's nothing sudden about these Muslims. The Antichrist is going to be sneaky and crafty and somewhat intelligent. He's not going to broadcast his plans to the world right off the bat. But Laban, what makes you say that these guys here are going to broadcast their plans? Well, just go online, where you can watch them on YouTube. Join them on Facebook. Or follow them on Twitter. Give me a break. There's nothing sudden about a Muslim anymore. Or at least there shouldn't be. The day is coming when these clowns will simply be blown away like chaff. Good riddance. Argument number 3. According to the Bible, all of the nations that are destroyed by Elohim in the last days for scattering his people and dividing his land are Islamic nations. Rebuttal number 3. What? Thank you, Pastor. That's what I was going to say. You're doing a lot better. They seem to be arguing that the ancestors of the Islamic peoples are responsible for the scattering of the Jewish people and the dividing of the land of Elohim. I don't think so. Let's start with the scattering of his people. Were the Jewish people scattered by nations that eventually became Islamic? No, they were not. They can then argue, well, what about Assyria and Babylon? Assyria eventually became Iraq and Syria, and Iraq now encompasses all the territory that was ancient Babylon. But did Sargon II of Assyria scatter the nation of Israel? Did Nebuchadnezzar scatter Judah? Well, let's take a look at this map here. What does it say there? Locations where Israel and Judah were dispersed. No, it says captive, taken captive. Nowhere in Scripture do we see these invaders allowing the Jews to run away or just be dispersed. The circumstances with both the Assyrians and the Babylonians were captivities. If there were any dispersions at all, they were done with purpose, like the Assyrians placing some captives in this city or that. But in both instances, there was no allowance for Jews to simply run away from these enemies to wherever they could get to escape. And with the Assyrians and Babylonians, there was no mass slaughtering of Jews either. These particular conquerors took the Jews back to their empires to work and to build those empires. And many Jews decided to stay in these empires for the rest of their lives. For example, Daniel did not go back to Israel when his captivity ended. By all accounts, these Jews did not have it so bad in these other countries. How is it that communities of Jews grew to be extremely large and prosperous over the centuries in other Middle Eastern countries, even up to the advent of these ISIS idiots? So the Jews have never, ever been dispersed by any of Muhammad's forebears. And if there was any dispersion at all, they did it to themselves. They just went where they wanted when the captivities were over. However, in the year 70 AD, the people of Elohim were dealing with a little outfit called Rome. Oh, baby. That's who dispersed them, and they threw in quite a bit of slaughtering in there too. And centuries later, did they become Muslims? No. They became Christians. At least 300 years before the Muslim garbage even started. And so, the Romans, who were the cause of the literal dispersion of the Jewish people, were neither Arabic, Egyptian, nor Persian, and were never Muslims. Dividing his land, let's go on to that part. Was the land of Elohim divided by any Islamic nations, or any that eventually became Islamic? No, it was not. In fact, of all the peoples throughout the world, the Arabs/Muslims had the least to say, or no say whatsoever, in the dividing of any lands located in the entire Middle East. So, at what point in history did the dividing of the land of Elohim actually begin? World War I. I've heard these people that say the Antichrist is going to be Muslim. I heard them say, all the nations that are listed in the Bible that are Islamic today, they're always ignored in Sunday school, and they always had been, in the past. But you know what? Until World War I, the atheists and the agnostics ignored them nations too. Because it wasn't until a little thing called the Sykes-Picot Agreement when people started paying attention to those Islamic countries. The Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916. Let's read together. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, officially known as the Asia Minor Agreement, was a secret agreement. Can I get the word agreement in here one more time? Between the governments of the United Kingdom and France, with the assent of Russia, defining their proposed spheres of influence and control in the Middle East should the Triple Entente succeed in defeating the Ottoman Empire during World War I, which they did. The negotiation of the treaty occurred between November 1915 and March 1916. The agreement, there it is, was concluded on 16 May 1916. The agreement, one more time, effectively divided the Arab provinces of the Ottoman Empire outside the Arabian Peninsula into areas of future British and French control or influence. There you go. these these Arabs, these Muslims, these whatever, they had no say in the matter whatsoever. Look at that map. Where's all the Muslim influence? Where's all that Islamic control? Where? It's nowhere. It's all France and England, with Russia thrown in there for good measure. So, which nations will ultimately be responsible for dividing Israel, the land of Elohim? Those nations. The UN Security Council will do their utmost to bring about the two-state delusion. Now, there are 15 member nations on the Security Council, but does anyone in their right mind believe that the decision-making will go beyond the 5 permanent members? And who are those 5 permanent members? China, France, the UK, Russia, and whatever that is masquerading as the United States. So regardless, neither Muslims nor Jews, for that matter, will even have a say in the matter. It is just so ironic, my friends, that since the end of World War I, the entire fate of almost every Islamic nation in the Middle East has been in the hands of the white infidel. And for all of those who are constantly invoking Psalm 83 and the ominous threat of this great and mighty Islamic confederation that will come together as one against Israel, well, nothing like that exists or ever will. Those Muslim countries are not autonomous. They're on the screen. There's your confederation, people. Look at that building. Look at those flags. There's the money. There's the power. I don't see no Haggarite flag up there anywhere, do you? Those Muslims barely have a say in where they can pitch a tent, let alone the rule of their own nations. But you know what? Let me tell you what. Their fate is not in anyone else's hands but Elohim's, and so this is all moot, because in the end only one nation comes out on top. Argument number 4. Great Reformation heroes like Martin Luther, John Calvin, regarded the Roman Catholic Church as the harlot of Revelation 17 and the religion of Islam to be the embodiment of the beast. Rebuttal number 4. Now here's where I really get confused. Now I'm sure that many of you will recognize this great man of Elohim. For those of you not familiar with this man, his name is Walid Shoebat. He's an ex-Palestinian terrorist who became a born-again follower of Yeshua HaMashiach. Now Walid says very boldly and without reservation that the Antichrist will definitely be a Muslim. Now I'm not here to challenge his belief. I just question his complete certainty. And something he said regarding Martin Luther in a video I watched in which he adamantly defends his position. Let me now play a statement for you that he made concerning Martin Luther, and then I'll point out my confusion. Here's Walid.
By what right did Martin Luther, who wrote about Islam being the embodiment of the beast system, sure, Martin Luther did teach that the Catholic Church was the harlot of Babylon, but he also said that the physical beast of the Bible, that regarding the Antichrist, it really is the body of Islam. It is the nations of Islamic nations. It's a culmination of Islamic unity coming against Israel. But it wasn't only Martin Luther or John Calvin or Sir Robert Anderson that taught an Islamic-centric view regarding Antichrist.
Now look at this article from Walid's website. Does that say what I think it says? I think it does. Exposing Martin Luther's love affair with Islam. Now, is it just me, or did Walid just say 2 months ago earlier in that video that Luther thought Islam was the devil? Look at the article. But that is not all. He even goes so far that Luther, that is, he even goes so far as to claim that a Muslim ruler, a Turkish ruler, is better than a Christian ruler. A smart Turk makes a better ruler than a dumb Christian. These apparently are the words of Martin Luther. And look at the first part of that next paragraph. It is no accident, since Luther hated Jews and the Pope more than he did the Islamic religion. I don't get this. Walid's saying that Luther thought they were bad, and now in this here, he's saying that Luther hated Jews and the Pope more than he did the Muslims. Look at the bottom the paragraph there. After calling the Jews and the Pope some foul names such as Antichrist and devil incarnate, he then urged his followers to look at the Turks in the best manner, and even went so far as to say that some of his German contemporaries actually want the Turk to come and rule because they think that our German people are wild and uncivilized. Goodness gracious. Was Luther a schizoid, or is Walid not, being clear here? What is this? Walid is saying here that Luther thought the Turks were more civilized than his own people, the Germans. I wonder what Luther would have thought about this Turk.
Erdogan. Erdogan.
Thank you, Pastor. But you know what? I don't care what Luther would think. Let me tell you what Laban think. I think that this guy is an nincompoop. He is a buffoon, idiot numbskull. He's nothing more than an attention-seeking opportunist nut. He's a Turkish Al Sharpton, Danny Glover, Harry Belafonte Potts. Now let me tell you how I really feel. Everything I just said is what he is, and what he will be. He will not be the Antichrist. No way. As I said earlier, the Antichrist will be somewhat intelligent. This dude is just a fame hawk. Am I out on a limb here? Well, but let me tell you, my gut is telling me to kick this guy to the curb. He's nothing. However, Walid believes that he's the Antichrist. I don't get it. I'm sorry. For one thing, the Antichrist is supposed to be partners with the false prophet. Well, if Erdogan is the Antichrist, he better get himself a new false prophet. I wonder if Walid thinks Jorge is the false prophet. To me, that's a no-brainer. But Erdogan can't stand Jorge. So unless one of them apologizes over this, over what? Well, look at them articles. Pope calls killings of Armenians genocide, provoking Turkish anger. And then there's the other one. Erdogan condemns, warns Pope Francis over Armenian genocide remark. I don't see much of a partnership here. Take a look at that. Is there anything in Scripture which says the Antichrist rebukes his false prophet? Well, this guy's actually condemning the false prophet. That doesn't seem too productive for the Antichrist cause, does it? All right, now I got both of these blasphemous pictures up. I'm going to stay out on that limb, and I'm going to say, the Pope, that one there, Jorge, he is the false prophet. This one over here is not the Antichrist. But time will tell. Turn the page. Argument number 5. For many years, Western-minded eschatologists believed that the European Union would produce the Antichrist, albeit they were greatly dismayed when it grew to beyond a 10-nation body, making it clearer to see that the focus should have been on the eastern leg of the Roman Empire. Rebuttal number 5. The EU should not have been the focus, not because it is in the West, but because of a certain inevitability of it growing beyond 10 nations. Why would it limit itself to a 10-nation membership? They're greedy. They're going to stop at 10? Yeah, right. But as it says there, the European Union should never have been the focus. Now, for those of you who are wondering what it means by 10 nations, let's take a look at the scriptures. Daniel 7:7. After this I saw in the night the visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Revelation 13, verse 1. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Maybe it's Clinton. So the 10 horns that we see in these verses that have 10 crowns, they are 10 kingdoms or regions or nations. It's like that. Now, the pro-Islamic antichristists, We'd point out to you how the European Union has grown beyond 10 nations, but they neglect to mention this. Oh, look at that. The Millennium Development Goals Report for the year 2009. They neglect to report that in this report, they got a map. Let's see the map. Regional groupings. There it is. And I'll leave a link so you can look it up, so you can see that I didn't doctor this up. Looks like the European Union blew their chance to being the 10 horns, but the UN seems to be doing a good job taking over. Look at that. 10 regions, count them. It's right there. But Laban, wait a second. This map is from 5 years ago. All right then, let's take a look at the Millennium Development Goals Report for 2014. This is the most recent one. Did they got a map? Let's take a look. Regional groupings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and what? 10. It's still 10, my friends. Today, right now, it's 10. There it is. Look it up. When listening to those who believe that the lawless one will be a Muslim, one picks up the sense that they also believe that the judgment on Islamic nations will be greater than that of other nations. Nothing could be further from the truth. According to Scripture, what is the standard by which all nations will be judged? Ha ha! Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you, speaking of Israel, and I will curse him who curses you. Says it all right there, brothers and sisters. Jew, Gentile, construction site, flagman. It don't matter. Bless Israel, be blessed. Curse it, be cursed. There you go, that's it. We must make certain not to paint the Muslims as the greater sinners. They may fare better in the day of judgment than many who claim Yeshua. Check out 2 Peter chapter 2 verses 20 and 21. For if, after having escaped the defilements of the world through the knowledge of the Master, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the latter end is worse for them than the first. And here's the kicker. For it would have been better for them not to have known the way of righteousness than having known it to turn from the set apart command delivered unto them. And how about James? Actually, there should be Yaakov. James 3:1. Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, knowing, and here's a bigger kicker, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. Man, oh man, that's powerful. That is as explicit as it can get, my friends. Sin is sin is sin is sin. But judgments will be lesser or greater, or these men would not have been inspired by the Ruach HaKodesh to write these scriptures. And when you hear of lesser judgments, don't let that fool you. Don't test that. Make no bones about it, my friends. Those Muslims, they'll get theirs. But James 3 verse 1, that's where the rubber meets the road. With regard to Elohim's judgment on the nations due to their attacks on his land, the Eastern mindset will point out that the only nations mentioned specifically by name in Scripture are the Islamic ones that still exist today. They will ask rhetorically, why are the only nations and her multitude mentioned in these judgment passages? For example, Ezekiel 32 verse 4, there is Elam and all her multitude, all around her grave, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, who have gone down uncircumcised to the lower parts of the earth, who caused their terror in the land of the living. Now they bear their shame with those who go down to the pit. Why? Why are these the only nations, they may ask? Well, because Elohim does what is his pleasure, and with this in mind, we must conclude that he found it unnecessary to mention Tahiti, Fiji, and of course Pitcairn Island. But you can bet your coconuts that if those nations reject Yeshua, they'll get theirs just as well as the worst terrorist state on this planet. Oh! Does being an Islamic nation make one a stronger candidate for Antichrist than one from a country where abortion is more readily available? Who might fare better on the day of judgment? Osman I, founder of the Ottoman Empire, or Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood? Stew on that one for a while. Perhaps this is why Elohim will not reveal the ancestry of the Antichrist before the appointed time, because people could target a certain group. Could you imagine what would happen if they announced that the nationality of the Antichrist had been discovered? I Gewalt. Hey, he's Belgian. Oh, get the Belgians. Or, hey, you protect the Belgians. Man, oh man, there's a can of worms. No, I'm not picking on the Belgians now, no offense. Oh boy, I hope there's not a whole bunch of Belgian Lutherans out there that are coming after me. Look, I think it's becoming clearer and clearer that we cannot be certain who the Antichrist is, that he could just spring up from anywhere. Take, for example, those throughout history who have been named by many biblical scholars as types of Antichrist. We got Ramses II, Haman, Antiochus Epiphanes, Herod the Great, Nero, Napoleon Bonaparte, and him. That's pretty diverse. And you know what? Not a Muslim in the bunch. One Egyptian, one Amalekite, one Macedonian, one Idumean, one Roman, one Frenchman, one German. No Muslims. 4 pagans, a pretend Jew, a Roman Catholic narcissist, and Hitler. So there you go. And there's no difference between any of them. They'd still be the same if they are around today. Do you think that if you could bring back one of them ancient pharaohs and take him back to Egypt, they would say to him, "Well, Pharaoh, Akhenaten, or whoever you are, we're Muslim now. You're going to have to convert." Yeah, right. Brothers and sisters, I truly believe that Elohim wants us to see that the Antichrist could come from anywhere or from any lineage. You know what? I also believe that a confirming sign that the Antichrist could be from anywhere comes through our most recently elected popes, or whatever you want to call that. I mean, come on. Italian after Italian after Italian, then out of the clear blue. Well, take a look at this. In 1523, Pope Adrian VI of the Netherlands died. That's right, he died. 455 years would pass before there would be another pope not born in Italy. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, in the year 1970, a little paperback book appeared called The Late Great Planet Earth by Mr. Hal Lindsey. It's flying off the shelves. It was the first Christian book ever picked up by a secular publisher. It almost single-handedly brought back the consciousness of the doctrine of the pre-tribulation rapture. And look what happened with the popes in less than a decade. Italian popes for 455 years. And then in 1978, Poland, Germany, and then this, Argentina, otherwise known as the New World Pope. Pretty ironic, isn't it? There you go, folks. I believe he could come from anywhere. Now, before I turn the page here, I want to address those who might be thinking, "Oh, Laban, he's contradicting himself. He said all you need is the Bible, and he's talking about Hal Lindsey's book. That's outside the Bible." Here's what I say about that. Most of the people that have read this book, I'd say, read it between the years 1970 and 1990. And think back to 1990. We were nowhere near as far gone in 1990 as we are now. Not even close. And anyway, I'm mainly talking about born-again believers. If in 2015 a true born-again believer in Yeshua HaMashiach needs to go outside the scriptures anymore to find out what you need to know, then you might just be here to watch the 2 witnesses blow fire on TV live from Jerusalem. But what about those 5 books you read in 2013, Laban? Friends, we have to use our gifts of discernment. There's a real big difference between reading the selected sermons of J. Vernon McGee and The Purpose-Driven Life by what's-his-name. I hope that explains it. Time. Argument number 6. Proponents of the Islamic Antichrist theory point out how, in coming to power, the Antichrist will conquer much land and devour much flesh. Daniel chapter 7 uses beasts to make this point. The first beast is a lion, the second a bear. These animals represent the ancient empires of Babylon and Medo-Persia, which today are Iraq and Iran. Rebuttal number 6. It is exactly true that these are both Islamic nations today. However, let's look at the lions. The lion from the Babylonian Ishtar Gate, built by King Nebuchadnezzar circa 575 BCE. This, of course, was the Babylonian Empire. However, there's another lion. Check that out. Lion from the walls of Darius the First Palace in the Persian city of Susa circa 510 BCE. So what are we looking at here? So Babylon's got the lion. I thought Persia was supposed to have the bear, but they got a lion. In fact, a lion was on the flag of Iran all the way up until 1979 when idiot peanut man Jimmy Carter destroyed the Shah, who was our ally. But that's a whole other video. Historically, the symbolism of a bear is found nowhere in connection with either the Medes, the Persians, or the Iranians. Why would Daniel use the symbolism of a bear? Well, he didn't. Daniel never identifies the beasts of chapter 7 by nation. It was Hippolytus of Rome, the early Christian historian, who first connected the image of Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 2 with the beasts of Daniel 7. I sincerely believe that Elohim had the bear thing worked out right from the start, though. The end comes out of the beginning. He knew that both Babylon and Persia would both use the lion. So the Persian bear would just have to wait a little longer to come over the mountain. But first, let's think back to what that scripture said. These nations would devour much flesh and conquer much land. Let's take first the conquering of much land, and we'll see if Elohim had one of these eastern lions in mind. Ho ho! Look at that big old lion sitting there. Where's he sitting? I think you call it Trafalgar Square. Where's that? One of them Muslim strongholds like Saudi Arabia or one of those other Islamic empires that conquered much land? Not at all. It was the white infidel stronghold known as the British Empire. The British Empire covered 13.01 million square miles of land, more than 22% of the Earth's landmass. Woo! The empire had 458 million people in 1938, more than 20% of the world's population. Now that's what I call conquering much land. Makes even Rome for its time pale in comparison to such an accomplishment. What was the saying? The sun, there he is again. The sun never set on the British Empire. Now let's take a look at the devouring of much flesh. There's a big old bear. What's he up to? Friends, let me ask you a question. With regard to eschatology, the study of things at the end of times, do you think that when you see a bear that is meant to represent a nation in a political sense, that Elohim wants you to think immediately of Persia? No, wait, come on. Who does the bear symbolize as far back as the 19th century and still now at the time of the end? Very good. That's what that flag looks like now. It's the Russian Republic now, but we'll use both for historical perspective. Now look at the bear. What's he chewing on there? It's 3 ribs. You think they're baby back? Now, according to most biblical scholars, these 3 ribs represent the 3 nations defeated by the Medes and the Persians, which were Libya, Babylon, and Egypt. But I think we can go even deeper than that. I'm not discounting the meaning I just mentioned, but since the bear is so tied to Russia in today's world, perhaps the 3 ribs could also represent the 3 historical forms of Russian government. You had the monarchy, then the Marxists, and now you got a republic. 3 different systems. That's just my theory there. There's a third theory I got. We'll see that in a bit. Now, is there another nation, and even an ally yet of Russia, that a bear also symbolizes? Ho ho! As Zeus Moshbender would say, Mr. Kung Pao Chickum. But wait, But wait a second there, Laban. Come on now. China's national symbol is not the bear. China's national symbol is not the bear. It's the red dragon, not a bear. What are you trying to pull here, Laban? Oh, come on now. Of course a red dragon is not a bear. How silly. But whenever something biblical comes up out of the sea, my friends, it's all about politics. And when it comes to politics, China really loves these little fellas. And that ain't no dragon, is it? Did you ever hear of a little thing called Panda Diplomacy? Check it out. Panda Diplomacy is China's use of giant pandas politically. Actions that other countries take with pandas are often seen as laden with meaning. For example, British diplomats worried that a 1964 transfer of a panda from a London zoo to Moscow would worsen Sino-Soviet relations. Say that 5 times. In January 2006, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Robert Zoellick was photographed hugging a 5-month-old panda cub during his visit to Sichuan province. The image was widely broadcast by the Chinese media and was purportedly interpreted as a sign that Zoellick supported better relations between China and the United States. Folks, in light of that, I'd say that there bear is representing that there nation. So there you go, my friends, 2 big old bears. And what according to the scriptures did they do? They devoured much flesh. Now, friends, look at those 2 flags right there. Can you think of any other nations throughout all of human history that have devoured more flesh than those 2? You'll never do it. Joseph Stalin, 23 million deaths. Mao Zedong, 49 to 78 million deaths. They couldn't even keep a count. But you can bet Elohim's kept his count. So there's your bears that have devoured much flesh. But my oh my, what do we do with all those Bible scholars that link Persia to a bear? Let's see what we can do. Well, when considering the way the world is right now, and we were going to think of a country that could serve as a common denominator between Russia and China, who might it be? Well, what do you know? Iran, do tell. And what is Iran's biblical equivalent, my friends? Persia, the Second Empire, in Nebuchadnezzar's statue. So there you go. You see, Elohim knew that both Babylon and Persia would want to be the big shot, and they both had to use the lion. But Daniel was seeing a bear. Yohanan saw a bear in the Revelation on the Isle of Patmos. And there it is. Iran, which was Persia, aligned with 2 modern countries of the day, both symbolized politically with a bear. Now let's take a look at the 3 ribs again. This is just my speculation now. I'm still out on that limb. This is for your consideration. Perhaps the 3 ribs are the 3 allies, these 3 end-time allies, Russia, China, and Iran. Hey, like I said, for your consideration. So now, my friends, when it comes to devouring much flesh and conquering much land, the British, Russian, and Chinese empires of modern times make the ancient empires of Babylon and Persia look about as dangerous as Trinidad and Tobago. Argument number 7. Islam's commanded form of execution will bring Revelation 20, verse 4 to fruition. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Yeshua and because of the word of Elohim. Rebuttal number 7. This is partially true, but Islam can in no way claim a monopoly on that little tidbit of end times prophecy anymore. How's that, Laban? That's how's that? Read it and weep, Ahmed. Dr. Sergio Canavero claims it will be possible to transplant a human head onto another body by 2017. However, he's moved it up to 2016. I wonder who his first patients will be. How about a couple? Yeah, perfect. But unfortunately for them, Dr. Canavero already has his first volunteer. This gentleman right here, Valery Spiridnov, says he is ready to put his trust in Dr. Canavero. The 30-year-old computer scientist was born with Verdnig-Hoffman disease, a genetic muscle wasting disorder that has left him seriously disabled since birth. New body would be taken from a brain-dead donor. Brain-dead donor? Wouldn't that go without saying? Now, I can hear some of you out there saying, what's this got to do with beheading people for their faith in Elohim, Laban? Like in the book of Revelation. Yeah, give me a minute. I'm getting to it. I'm surprised you haven't figured it out already. Now I'm thinking, what's the best possible scenario to do this operation? And I found it. Look at here. Can body parts be reattached after accidental amputation? Well, of course, this wouldn't be accidental, this operation, with the head transplant. But read what the article said. When you see the wound and the severed limb, they'll be hoping to see a clean cut, making the task ahead of them much easier. A clean cut, huh? And look at this here. This is from an article, an earlier one from Dr. Canavero before he had his volunteer. Look at that drawing there. Now read what this says. This is from the article. It is this clean cut which is the key to spinal cord fusion. Clean cut. Clean cut. Now I ask you, my friends, what would be the best possible implement to use in getting this clean cut? Be still, my heart. France is everywhere. Remember this from one of my previous videos? Remember the young kids with the Oculus Rift pretending to get their heads chopped off for fun? And now look at this headline. Oculus Rift backers upset at Facebook deal. But should they be? What's the article say here? This partnership is one of the most important moments for virtual reality. It gives us the best shot at truly changing the world. Palmer Luckey, he's the creator of that piece of trash. At the end of the day, a deal with Facebook makes sense for bringing VR to the masses. VR, that's virtual reality. For those who are only hoping to play games on their virtual reality headsets, sure, this could be a bit of a disappointment, as more practical applications could be the bigger target for Facebook. Do you see? I know why these gamers are all upset. They're going to be using it for other stuff they didn't intend to invest in. They put a lot of money into this thing, these people, all over the internet. There's one of these Kickstarter things. And now this Zuckerberg is using it for other stuff, more practical applications. Wonder what that could be. Don't you see it now, folks? It's not just these crazy Muslims out there in the desert promoting beheadings. It's mainstream now. You can simulate it for fun with this stupid contraption you put on your head. And Dr. Canavero wants to know how to get the cleanest cut so he can make his operation easy, cutting your head off. And we've got the right tool. We've got the right tool for it. The idea is to get people desensitized. Google is even supposed to implement a new way to save time searching online by eliminating unnecessary text. You know what it's being referred to as? Google Guillotine. Come on, people, they're shoving it right in our faces. And how's that for irony, folks? There's your two cyber beasts right there side by side. Man, oh man, if this ain't all fitting together, nothing could, folks. You even got a judge. A judge. Well, take a look at this. Guillotine, firing squads, better than lethal injection, says prominent federal judge. Oh, I forgot to say he was prominent. Goodness gracious, well, there he is. That's him there, reaching out. Looks like he's reaching out to touch the guillotine. That's Judge Alex Kozinski. And wait till you see this quote, my friends. It'll... if this don't show you where we're headed. I Gewalt, I did not mean to say that. If the state's going to kill, it should at least do it effectively, he said. The guillotine is probably the best, but it seems inconsistent with our national ethos. Look at that. If the state's going to kill, use a guillotine, it's probably the best, Now come on. Those idiots out in the desert chopping people's heads off with knives and axes is not Revelation 20. This is, right here, Oculus Rift, desensitizing the masses. We want to do this with the masses, going to get it to the public. Oh, come on. Practical applications, Facebook and Google. But I got one more for you. If you're still in doubt at all that people will become desensitized to the idea of beheadings, look at these few comments that caught my eye on a blog discussing the Oculus Rift's Guillotine simulator. Read, let's see. Vestibule. It's not even stupid. It's disgusting. Those who had fun watching this video should go and check themselves. I agree, this is taking things too far. But is next virtual rape? What's more, people do actually like this. How come? And here's the one. Virtual rape bothers you? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more. So the next time someone tells you how the Muslims are going to chop everyone's head off during the tribulation, ask them the question that's up on the screen right now. When Revelation 20 verse 4, mass beheadings for refusing to take the mark of the beast, does come to fruition, how do you think it'll most likely be carried out? Like this? Or like this? And so, can we be completely certain who this lawless one will be? I do not believe we can, my friends, no matter what mindset you may be using to view this world. But I do believe that there is somewhere we can look. Right here. And my friends, there is absolutely no difference between that building and this one. They are all of one purpose now as they were then. But Elohim confused their languages. But now they're back with plenty of translators. So this time Elohim is going to let them have their way. And come September, oh come on September, every tribe, tongue and nation will be represented and all holed up in there with their false gospel and their false prophet. And who knows, maybe there will be a special announcement about a coming one that the scriptures sardonically refer to as the man of peace. He could be someone widely known or hardly known and cunningly hiding in plain sight, or someone widely known or hardly known and cunningly flying completely under the radar. But at this late hour, I do not believe that it is even possible for the Antichrist to be someone that no one has ever heard of. We are much too close to the time of Jacob's trouble. And that's right, my friends, Jacob's trouble. So could the Antichrist be a Muslim? Yes. Could the Antichrist be from the deepest, darkest parts of the Brazilian rainforest? Perhaps. Could the Antichrist be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company? Certainly could. Could the Antichrist be from the remotest of Himalayan villages? Of course. Or could the Antichrist be supposedly from a group of islands located in the Pacific Ocean, the largest of which is called Hawaii? Absolutely. So in light of this, my friends, please do not be quick to paint any particular person, group, or belief as greater in sin. Remember the words of John, Yohanan, by this you know the Ruach, the Spirit of Yahweh. Every Ruach that confesses that Yeshua HaMashiach has come in the flesh is of Yahweh. And every Ruach that does not confess that Yeshua HaMashiach has come in the flesh is not of Yahweh. And this is the Ruach of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now already in the world. You are of Yahweh, little children, and have overcome them, because, and this is the best and greatest part, my brothers and sisters, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world.